So today we're going to talk about a fish that we've done before, but I didn't exactly have the fish at the time. So basically I'm just going to remake the video and most likely delete the other one. It does have quite a bit of views, which I'm kind of mad at because it's not very good. Um, so it's kind of, slowly remaking stuff, especially when I start getting the fish, because we can, physically see it, and you might not see it yet, because it's more of a top fish. But what I got was a he's hiding in the corner here. Well, got him kind of freaked out. Well, we got a Gourami. Um, Gouramis are great beginner fish. To give a little backstory to kind of give a little analogy on them. They come from swampy areas of Asia, and they like a little more of an acidic side of the pH scale. But which when it comes to keeping them, it is nice to keep them close as you can to that, but they are a very hardy fish, so if you can't exactly resemble that what they need, then they'll do just fine. I mean, my tank, our water quality just out of the tap isn't like perfect. I don't try to make the water exactly what these fish need, but just like all these fish, they're very hardy, so they'll adapt to anything, and just like the Programi, it will do the same thing. So it makes it great for beginners if you have the right size. And that's one of the things we could talk about is the Programi does get it gets pretty big, um, getting about to 5 inches, probably about max. Usually, you'll probably get them to 3 or 4 inches. Mine's probably about 3 right now, but for 4 or 5 inches is probably the most you'll ever see it in your tank. But tank size, I would say 30 or bigger, 30 gallons or bigger, just because you got to factor in having other fish in there. If you had no fish at all, yeah, you could probably stick it in a 20 like this one over here. But we all have to factor in that you're probably going to have other fish in there. You're probably going to have a community tank. And so 30 or bigger is definitely going to be recommended more. And for beginners, bigger tanks are better. They're smaller tanks, when a disease breaks out, it's gonna wipe out stuff way faster than it will in a bigger tank. So if you are a beginner, definitely look towards a bigger tank as you can afford. I think great beginner tanks are 29 gallons and 40 breeders. I think those are great ways to start if you have the money. Obviously, most people that just start don't really want to spend that much money, so I would just, not saying this fish, but talking about just beginners in general, 29 gallons is a great beginner tank to start off with. But for this fish in particular, 30 plus definitely gets on the larger side, but is definitely a great centerpiece for a community tank like I have. Not a lot of action going on, but definitely brings a lot more size to this tank now. Because we have a lot of small community fish in here, tetras and whatnot. But feeding these guys, they're not too picky, just like any of these fish I have in here. They'll literally just eat anything. You feed them live food, frozen food, processed food, which would just be regular pellets, flakes, whatever. They'll eat it all. I just feed fluvels, bug bites, usually in this tank, and then whenever I feed my puffer, I like to throw in a little bit of bloodworm, so they'll eat it all. Um, there's no particular like diet they should follow. Like there's those few species of fish, just like my Amazon puffer, where he has to have snails and clams in his diet for his beak to be trimmed, so it doesn't get overgrown. You know, Gouramis are not like that. They're just like any other tetra and any of that. They'll just eat anything. They don't need certain food. Just as long as you give them good healthy food, they'll be perfectly fine. But telling these guys from male to female, quote me if I'm wrong, males, I think, during spawning will have this red, we get getting a little scared. Males will have this red underside. It'll form this red under them, and that's how you can kind of tell if they're male or female. That might be the other way around. You have to look into that if you're really wanting to know. Um, but having kind of going into that, male or female, um, depending on how people ask how many can you have in here. If you're just having it as a centerpiece like I have, just have one, because if you, unless you can tell, if you get too many males in here, there's going to be a lot of aggression, and then it's just going to turn in like into a cichlid tank. It's just going to all everything's going to break out, and we're going to have killing in this tank, and you don't want that. But otherwise, they won't mess with anything else. They're really peaceful. They're honestly shy most of the time, so they won't even mess with your other fish. They're more scared of your neon tetras than they are of the neon tetra's scared of them. So they don't care. They're just kind of relaxed fish, like most gouramis are. They're definitely a middle to top fish, meaning they stay towards the top like they do. And the reason for that is because they're kind of related to the betas. Betas, they constantly need to come to the surface, and they might get a little puff of air through the mouth. That's what gouramis will do, kind of like whales. They can't be in water for their whole life. They kind of have to come to the surface every so often and get a breath of air. And just like betas, they will build bubble nest, and not that it matters to any of you if you're breeding them or not, but if you are breeding them, they do make bubble nest. And if you are breeding them, how you'll know is obviously you gotta have the right ratio. But once you start knowing the males will attack the females, and once you see that happening, it's time to probably divide the tank up somehow and separate the male and females. Let her lay her eggs, hatch them, go from there. Quite simple. Just the hardest part is finding that male to female ratio. But yeah, I mean, not much else I could say. I mean, probably should get close up more. This light gives off kind of a weird fog at the top of the water. You can see how it looks clear down here, and then when you go up. So I don't know if he's a very shy fish at the moment. But from the thumbnail I'll show, you'll get a good idea what he looks like. But I guess kind of describing how they look like. Why they're called the Gourami is because they have all these white dots all over them, which kind of I don't know if they exactly look like pearls, but they're kind of sparkly and they're kind of look cool. So that's kind of where they get their name. And then they'll have this black stripe. You kind of see here going to the eye and body. Kind of this black bar going through, which is a cool design. And then mine, I haven't seen it a lot in this, but mine has this kind of this green and red pattern at the bottom of its bottom fins, which looks pretty cool. I've never seen that on others, but it's kind of this green and red pattern down below. But I don't know if all those have those. All the ones I've seen, like that one, that's the only one I've seen like that, so that's pretty cool. But I'm pretty sure mine's a male. I just saw, the red, what I was talking about earlier. So, but yeah, before I literally talk about random stuff, that's the pro Gourami. Here to living in a basically 40-gallon and doing just fine. Like in the beginning, these are great beginners. Very easy to keep. They're really, it doesn't get any easier than this. As long as you do tank maintenance weekly, you're golden. Obviously, us people that have done it always know have a cycle tank. That's definitely one thing. This is definitely not I wouldn't put this fish first in your tank. I would definitely wait just to be safe. You don't, especially this is more of an expensive fish. So definitely, if you're cycling with fish, definitely get some a little more hardier. Even though these are very hardy, I wouldn't cycle a tank with these fish. So definitely don't make this your first fish you get in your tank. But that's just a side note. You can probably see him. Yeah, he's pretty big. He don't look that big on camera. He's pretty big compared to everything in this tank. And then they also have these, kind of like what angelfish have. these things that dangle down. I don't exactly I forget what they're called, but it just senses stuff. But no worry, just make sure they don't get caught in anything, because they can get caught. I've been through that a bunch. But as long as you have they definitely prefer more community tank, planet tank, all that. Mine's not so much planet anymore, but it's good enough. He stays at the top anyways. Um, a lot of hiding, a lot. There's a lot of spots that he can hide in if he does get scared. But most of the time, he just hides behind the heaters or the intakes and stuff. So, but yeah, other than that, pro Gourami, definitely go out and get one if you're looking for a centerpiece fish. I'm gonna add Bolivian rams next. Maybe get a couple of them. I really like their color and I want to try them out. So, um, yeah, go by and definitely check out the channel. We got another tank here. We got the, um, I guess high tech you can call it, rimless 20-gallon, housing the holy rare Amazon puffer. And I would subscribe because here coming up in the I want to say future, but here in the next year or so, we're definitely going to get more cooler stuff, stuff like a Studenti puffer and another planet tank coming up. And yeah, other than that, comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next